1. Donald Trump versus Tim Walz. The lies from the stage at the Democratic National Convention. The truth on Fox and Friends. 2. Don Lemon and Lawrence Jones hear from black voters in Chicago that they're going to vote for Donald Trump. 3. Vivek Ramaswamy, live on The Will Cain Show. It is The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page, always on demand. Just hit subscribe if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. That way you can listen to The Will Cain Show whenever and however you like, when you're driving around in your car or you're walking and running on the treadmill. Or if you'd rather watch us talk here on The Will Cain Show, just drop the text description underneath this live stream and hit subscribe to The Will Cain Show on YouTube. Anybody watch House of Dragons?
I tried it, couldn't get through it all the way.
Boring.
Oh my gosh.
Boring.
So long.
Yep.
We're going to wait 2 years for another one? I don't know. We'll see.
Anybody watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yep. Love it.
All right. A little bit of curveball. Expected you Game of Thrones fans to like House of Dragons. But you know how in House of Dragons, which features much more prominently than Game of Thrones, dragons. You know how when they're riding dragons in House of Dragons? It's always like a person, like a tiny little person on the back of a dragon.
Yeah.
And, and then they take the close-up shot, and he's got his hands on some type of, sometimes it's reins, and then sometimes it looks like two handles on his saddle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he kind of does a hard pull to the left, and the dragon veers to the left.
Yeah.
It's House of Dragon.
Dragon.
Not
House,
plural.
is
dragons.
it House of the Dragon, actually?
House of Dragon. I'm correct.
House of Dragon.
Don't worry.
Feels like the kind of correction I didn't want. Thank you, though. House of Dragon. You know when this tiny human being is pulling that dragon by the handles on his saddle and the dragon responds? That's sort of like interviewing Donald Trump. I mean, you go into it with grand plans about the general direction you want to fly with the dragon, but not long after takeoff, you realize these handles don't do anything.
Sounds about right.
There is no steering to this flight path.
We're going right.
And I have interviewed Donald Trump on multiple occasions, and always with grand plans. And I exit the interview on the back end saying, well, different scenario, maybe like Theo Vaughn if I get him in the right environment and I tell some jokes, or it just one-on-one and I can really follow up. Then it would be different, with Donald Trump. I'm beginning to think it's going to always be the same. It's always going to be riding a dragon. And all that a guy like Theo Vaughn has done is gone in and not tried to ride the dragon. He's just said, hey, dragon, guess what I have? I have some food for you.
That's so good.
And he tosses out some chicken and some turkey, and then you just wait and see how the dragon responds.
Yeah. Right.
And there's a half chance the dragon enjoys the chicken. There's a half chance the dragon eats the dragon handler. But whatever it is, you get to see the dragon. And that's what Theo Vaughn got. He got authentic dragon. And I held on for dear life this morning on Fox and Friends. Donald Trump this morning was on Fox and Friends and did my best as part of a 4-person interview to get something unique, something new, some kind of information, something that I haven't heard from the former president. Not just because I want to break through, because I want to go viral, but because I owe it to you. I owe it to anyone that's watching or listening to help advance this conversation in the nation about the man, Donald Trump, about the country, the United States of America, and about his opponent, Kamala Harris. Night 3 of the DNC saw the rise of vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. And we heard lies from the stage at the DNC. So did we hear truth this morning on Fox and Friends? That is story number 1. Last night from the stage of the Democratic National Convention, vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, former governor of Minnesota, was introduced to a national audience. He took to the stage, and in a great tradition from the last 3 nights, he told some lies. Most notably, he told a lie directly about Donald Trump's position on abortion. Watch.
Take Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Their Project 2025 will make things much, much harder for people who are just trying to live their lives. They spent a lot of time pretending they know nothing about this. But look, I coached high school football long enough to know, and trust me on this, when somebody takes the time to draw up a playbook, they're going to use it. And we know if these guys get back in the White House, they'll start jacking up the costs on the middle class. They'll repeal the Affordable Care Act. They'll gut Social Security and Medicare. And they will ban abortion across this country with or without Congress. Here's the thing. It's an agenda nobody asked for.
And they will enact a national ban on abortion with or without Congress. Donald Trump has, on numerous occasions, on multiple platforms, to my mind, before this morning, most notably on the All In podcast, said very directly, I do not and would not support a national abortion ban. So this morning, I gave him the chance once more to say and lay out exactly where he stands on abortion. Watch.
I'm for exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I'm for exceptions. Ronald Reagan was for exceptions. Most people are for exceptions. You have to follow your heart. But it's being voted on, and an issue that's ripped our country apart for 50 years is being solved at the voting booth, and states are voting in what they want. And a lot of these policies, I will tell you, are much more liberal than people would have thought happened. But they say in the committee, I want a federal ban. I would never, and they know I've said it, there will not be a federal ban. This is now back in the states where it belongs. And again, every Democrat, every Republican, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated and brought back to the states.
There would never be a federal ban on abortion. Let's talk about lies for a minute, okay? So there are lies, there's hyperbole, and there's exaggeration. What also happens every time you interview Donald Trump is you get the inevitable, not just tweet, but you get the media headline. You don't push back when he lies, and immediately. It's almost like acid reflux. Someone eats something spicy, and they get acid reflux. Donald Trump speaks, and the instinctual response is he lies. Okay, so I want to talk about that for a minute. I'm listening. I do that. I listen. I saw your face, young James, when Donald Trump was talking. He did not tell the complete truth in that answer about something, okay? I noticed it in real time, okay? Meaning this morning on Fox and Friends. I'm here with you right now. There is something he said in that clip that is not true. Now, it's not about a national or federal abortion ban. I'm curious. I see you nodding along as well, Tinfoil. What did he do in that particular clip that is untrue?
When he said everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned.
Correct.
He exaggerates. It
Right.
doesn't.
That's right. Tinfoil, is that why you're nodding your head?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people did, but not a lot of people also did.
Correct.
Wanted overturned. Yeah.
So, look, I mean, it sounds like you're sort of like parsing the rate of terminal velocity. Like, am I equivocating about the difference between an exaggeration, hyperbole, and a lie? But there is a difference. There is a difference. And you know what? Whether or not we all admit it, we go around in our lives instinctually understanding that difference, okay? You exaggerate. I exaggerate. We all do hyperbole from time to time. Are you lying? Like, I mean, do you know the difference inside when you lie, right? When you say something that is blatantly untrue versus when you overstate something. What's wrong? What's wrong, Two-A-Days?
Well, the difference is because it's more important when he does it, when he has those little hyperbole things. When we do it, it's maybe I was late for a meeting or something like that or whatever. This is a bigger, thing, and it becomes more of a lie when it's on that stage, I think.
Okay, so you're saying there's a difference between me saying, that is the best burger I've ever had. Ever. That is the best burger I've ever put into my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Versus him saying, everyone wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. Every liberal.
Because people believe it.
No, see, here's the thing. And maybe this is where, maybe I'm being dishonest with myself. I'm willing to entertain this possibility, okay? First of all, Donald Trump is a real estate developer from New York City. And these are mannerisms and characteristics that are stereotypical and common. First of all, let's be real, to New Yorkers. I also feel like women do it a lot, if I'm being real, meaning exaggerate.
You said it.
Like, that's the best burger I've ever had. I don't ever say that, actually. I always said, like, I can't give the gratuitous compliment.
I literally think, like, everyone says literally. Yeah.
I used to take my dog for a walk. I had this beautiful black and tan Doberman. The best, Leon. The best. I have another one now, Violet. She's good. Leon, the best. And I would walk him in Central Park. And Central Park before 9 a.m. is leash free. Everybody's out there with their dogs. And look, man, I mean, yeah, they'd come up. They'd be like, your dog is gorgeous. I know. But you know how that people do that thing like, oh, your dog's so cute too? I couldn't do it. I can't do it unless I believe it. Unless it's true, I won't give the gratuitous compliment.
Right.
So I'm willing to entertain, am I doing something inconsistent with the pride that I take in terms of telling the truth? But I know when Donald Trump is doing that he's doing the sort of salesmanship thing. I think he's selling you. He's not lying to you. And I guess I feel like there is a difference. It's true. Not every liberal wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Not every legal scholar. But do you know what is true? A lot of legal scholars did from the left. Here is a depth of truth that people never understood because they made it only a partisan issue. Left, right, Democrat, Republican. True legal scholars, many on the left, understood how weak of a legal analytical decision Roe v. Wade was. That's a fact, okay? I've had conversations with guys who would not converse with me now because I'm Fox. No, I'm serious. Like, and they think whatever. But they would have honest debates with me on air like, yeah, this whole penumbra of rights and a right to privacy, it doesn't exist in the Constitution. It's bad law. They still were pro-choice, and they wanted it to be legal, but they understood it was really bad. And Donald Trump is leaning into that. Because that wasn't an isolated anecdote I was just sharing with you. It was a lot. Now, there's a lot of lefty legal scholars who would have said, no, of course. It's hidden in there, the right to privacy. So he's not accurate when he says everyone, all legal scholars, but I guess, and let's also, again, let's put Will in the penalty box. Let's check him. Okay, you're saying exaggerated, but you also get onto Tim Walz for exaggerating his military service, his combat service, certainly for exaggerating his high school coaching career. One of you guys told me he was defensive coordinator. This morning, everybody's telling me no. He was defensive line coach or linebackers coach.
So even further
Step
down.
Further down.
Oh, boy.
I still will let him have
Coach.
I'm still going to let him have coach.
We'll let him have it.
I don't care if he was voluntary secondary coach. He's coach.
He was a parent volunteer.
But, so I do have to say, okay, exaggeration. You're getting after Walz for the exaggerations. Are you excusing Donald Trump for the exaggerations? Maybe I am, and I really got to look at myself. But what I'm leading you up to here is Donald Trump would pass a national abortion ban is not an exaggeration. It's a blatant falsehood, as is Donald Trump promised a bloodbath if he loses the election. That's not an exaggeration. That's an intentional distortion of a statement. He said he didn't promise, he predicted an economic bloodbath if he loses the election. Why are you already rolling your eyes again, 2-8?
Well, no, because it's dangerous. That's what people point those things out, because it seems dangerous to the left for him saying those things. So because people take it very, very literally. So when he's saying it that way.
They do this because they have decided what in their minds is a moral truth. They have decided when I say a moral truth, they decided there is something more important than the literal truth.
Right.
And the moral truth is, and I do think they believe this, I think so, that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Have you noticed they quit saying that, by the way? I'm serious. They're not saying it from the stage of the DNC. They poll tested it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do well. So no more are we doing saving democracy and threat to democracy. But in their heart of hearts, that's the story they want to tell. So in order to tell that story, you've got to say, this man's promising a bloodbath. This man's calling white supremacists and Nazis very fine people. And that, again, is not an exaggeration. That is a invented statement. That is a distortion of reality. That is not true. And that's different than an exaggeration. He did not call Nazis and white supremacists very fine people. He did not. We've been through it on this show, right? Everybody listening, everybody watching knows that. I don't think Two-A-Days doesn't have the clip lined up because we can only put 6 in our system at a time. But we should have that clip available at all times.
Right.
At all times of him saying, I'm not talking about the Nazis and and white supremacists. But my point is, so this is what I'm getting at. So Tim Walz, in the same spirit of very fine people in bloodbath, says that Republicans and Donald Trump will pass a national abortion ban. In my mind, that is different than an exaggeration. That is an invented statement. And there was a time, there truly was a time, I think, when that didn't happen. Or you didn't get away with it. This thing's been fact-checked, for example, the very fine people, and the national abortion ban, by institutions that normally would never treat Donald Trump with any sense of objectivity, much less favor. And it doesn't matter that it's fact-checked. It hasn't stopped them. It has not in any way stopped Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz. They are going to keep saying Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people. They're going to keep saying that he'll pass a national abortion ban, no matter what he says, no matter how it's fact-checked. And that is a fascinating moment now that we've arrived at. There is no shame. There's no shame in getting fact-checked by 4 Pinocchios in the Washington Post. There's no shame in whatever, Snopes and PolitiFact. There's no shame. There's no governor on this machine. And I think that everyone's excusing it because they're saying Donald Trump exaggerates. Now, they're saying that's a lie. Now, I would say this, to continue on this. I know this is going to be like, oh, how do you put aside the response to the 2020 election, which is a complicated topic, by the way. It is, and everybody wants to make it easy, right? But I'm going to put it aside because it is so complicated. We're not going to litigate the 2020 election. Outside of that, I would really love somebody to give me, Donald, what is the biggest lie? I just rattled 4 off that the left has done over and over and over again. So without an exaggeration, a wholly invented truth, I would really like someone to tell me Donald Trump's biggest invented lie. So besides telling me and us litigating the 2020 election, what would it be?
When we Googled it and we're looking at the Daniel Dell fact checks, it's everything on it is one of those things you said. So it's I thought it was going to be easy to find when you asked that, and it's proving difficult to find.
It wasn't easy that night, James, of the debate between Biden and Trump, and the response was Trump lied all night. But it was never said specifically, what is the lie? Not an exaggeration, not hyperbole. Lie.
Well, they're kind of half-truths, right? I mean, there's some truth to it, so you're not really lying, right? Like you're saying. So you can't find a direct, hey, this is a big, bold-faced, blatant lie. Like, you know, when they put those lists together of, like, all of Trump's lies, they're not really. Like, they're kind of, like you said, they're just kind of hyperbole and exaggeration.
Well, that stood out to me, and that's what we asked this morning on Fox and Friends. I also asked Donald Trump what I think is, honestly, the number one issue to Americans. I mean, every poll shows it. It's the economy. And the Harris-Walz ticket, to the extent that they're willing to give us specifics, is saying things like price controls, capital gains rates at 45%, and taxing unrealized gain. Crater the economy stuff. So I asked Donald Trump about the effect on the economy.
If that was me that stole $27 million, it would be headlines. They wouldn't even be talking about the convention. The man stole, or they say the man and the family, the morning of their convention on Monday, $27 million. They have it all documented. They don't even talk about it. The newspapers, the press, there's not a story to be heard.
That's actually, what's up?
No, which one were you talking about?
Well, when he talked about the economy at the end of the interview, but that's all right.
Oh,
I'm telling you, he's riding a dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess,
Sure.
I don't know when he talked about that. He did. Actually, I do remember. He does bring up, you know what he's talking about there? The House GOP Oversight Committee talking about this week the results of their investigation, which they allege shows that Joe Biden and his family reaped $27 million fraudulently in the influence peddling schemes we've talked about on Fox for 3 years. Hunter Biden, what's his brother's? Is his brother named Jim?
Jimmy Biden.
Jim Biden.
Yeah.
All of those guys. And, it's the House GOP Oversight Committee. And one could argue, well, that's the Republicans. But, I mean, they did their investigation. They did it, and it comes – we know – I definitely think this is true. I definitely think Hunter Biden was trading on his dad's name. I definitely think his dad knows about it. And we know that there's transcripts of his dad being on the call. And we know that he took meetings with business associates of Hunter Biden. All this is there. We know his family has gotten wealthy dating from the time that he was vice president of the United States. But Donald Trump, the dragon, was flying all over the place in that moment. And after that, I did ask him, okay, but what about all these crazy proposals? Will you have it?
The lies? I have the one with the Walz lies he responds to.
Well, you're like riding a dragon today. Like, well, okay, that's cool. I guess I'll just ride this where
I
it
didn't get to
goes.
see
No
you very
delay
much
anymore. We're
I didn't
like
get to
right
see.
here.
I didn't get to see you much this morning, so that's why.
Roll the tape to it, eh?
He's a total lightweight, and he shouldn't be even having any access to possibly being president. The guy, he's been a terrible governor. They've had nothing but problems in their state. He has no capability. They call him coach. He's a semi-coach. If he coached some football for a little while, this guy is a lightweight, and he shouldn't have access. And for him to say about Project 25 is disgraceful. They know I have nothing to do with it. I had no idea what it was. A group of people got together. They drew up some conservative values, very conservative values, and in some case, perhaps they went over the line, perhaps they didn't. I have no idea what Project 25 is, but they use it and they know it, just like Charlottesville, totally discredited.
That's him talking about Project 2025. In Walz's statements. That was another one Walz said last night. That Project 2025 is going to be the roadmap. The one thing I'd say about Project 2025 is almost every think tank that you can think of has put out like a roadmap, like for the party of their choice. Brookings, Heritage, whatever. I can't even remember the name of them all. Cato is the Libertarian Think Tank Institute. They all put out like wish lists. Now, did some former Trump staffers work on 2025, Project 20? Yes, that is true. Kevin Roberts, who we had on the show, who helped write Project 2025, is he hoping that Trump adopts it? Yes, he is. But the truth is, I don't think this is anything deeper than the name Project 2025. I really don't.
It's the branding.
I don't even think they've read it.
I think a lot
200 plus pages.
and a lot of Democrats I talk to are terrified of this. This is the main thing.
Because of the name.
Exactly, but with Trump specifically.
Because it sounds like a Netflix show, but one that's
Yeah.
out of Brazil. Like, yeah. You guys know what show I'm talking about. I'm always on Netflix. Like, I need to watch a new show, and I love heist shows. And I think there's
do
one
too.
literally called Heist, and I'm like, and I click on it, and I'm like, oh, it's from Brazil. It's Portuguese.
It's good.
And I'm like, well, I'm out. I'm not reading Portuguese. For 2
Overdubs.
episodes.
Overdubs.
It's good for the brain.
They talk over it.
Little teaser.
I think overdubs aren't as good as
Captions.
captions.
I don't know. I've been
rather-
I like overdubs.
I did Fauda with overdubs.
So good.
Yeah, but then you know what? Somebody told me you should stop doing that and do caption. Fauda is the show out of Israel that's about Shin Bet fighting terrorists in Gaza and the West Bank, and it is really good.
Yeah.
But like, I think 3/4 through the show, somebody's like, "Oh, you got to put it on closed captioning," and everybody's voice was different, and it made all their personalities different.
Yeah.
I was like, "What an idiot! I've been watching this with dubs.
That's so
Yeah.
true. You're
Not
right.
the way to do it." But yeah, like Project 2025 sounds like Heist, the Brazilian show on Netflix. You're not quite sure, but it sounds, scary and good, or scary and bad, either way you want to play it. Did you notice they're kind of like trying to do Agenda 47? I don't even know what Agenda 47 is. They're talking about Agenda 47 lately. That's another one. If you
I don't
call,
know that one.
what was it Paul Ryan's thing, like Roadmap for America?
Yeah.
Just doesn't sound as scary.
It doesn't.
You can't go
That
up on
sounds
stage
great.
and go, and their roadmap for America is going to take us back to the Handmaid's Tale.
It sounds like happy music.
Trump will tell you his biggest regret was listening to Paul Ryan and doing healthcare first.
In 16?
Yeah. They went with healthcare first, hurt his initial approvals, and then they got around to taxes, and he's like, why don't we just do that the whole time?
Yeah. Well, Project 2025, that one particular specificity is that Project 2025 is pretty open about its goals for coming from heritage and conservative think tanks. They would like to see abortion restricted throughout this country. I don't know if they have advocated for a national abortion ban in that, but they definitely want to try to limit it as much as possible on a state-by-state level, and Trump has made it absolutely clear he wants nothing to do. Honestly, he wants nothing to do with abortion anymore. He's done with it. It's like Supreme Court, now it's to the states, now you decide democratically, and it's just a lie to say he wants to do this, and I wish there was some check. This is the only check, this conversation right here, we're going to get. It's the only check on the truth. And I am trying to remain as objective as possible and capable of calling out a lie by doing it on both sides. But right now, I do see a difference between hyperbole and an invented reality, an absolute lie. Don Lemon, and Lawrence Jones for that matter, went to the streets of Chicago and across America to ask the black community how they're going to vote. And guess what they both heard? Donald Trump. It's coming up on the Will Cain Show. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors fallen heroes by supporting their families. Families like that of U.S. Army Chief, Warrant Officer, Sean Michael Barnes. Officer Barnes enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2011. He earned numerous awards, including the Distinguished Flying Cross. He cherished the camaraderie of military service and excelled as a supportive leader. But during 2023 deployment, Barnes perished in a training flight when his aircraft crashed into the Mediterranean Sea. He leaves behind his wife, Brandy, and their 2 children. Now, to honor Officer Barnes' memory and service, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation provided Brandy and her children with a mortgage-free home through the Gold Star Family Home Program. This program provides mortgage-free homes to the families of service members, honoring their sacrifice with a lasting tribute. Join Tunnel to Towers and its mission to provide mortgage-free homes to America's heroes and the families they leave behind by donating $11 a month to T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org. More coming up in just a moment on The Will Cain Show.
I'm Emily Campagno. This month, the Fox True Crime Podcast presents Crimes on Campus.
More pledges, more money, more colleges, until it was a multi-million-dollar drug network.
You'll be joining me on college and university campuses all across the country as I share chilling stories of scandal, corruption, and murder.
Brutalized 5 students over 3 nights.
New episodes available every Tuesday this month. Listen and follow at foxtruecrime.com.
The Democratic National Convention, live on Fox News.
Do we believe in the promise of America?
Get Democracy 24 coverage you won't see anywhere else. From the #1 name in news. Plus, special analysis from the voices America trusts. There's a reason why more Democrats, more independents, and more Republicans watch Fox News than any other news network. The Democratic National Convention, all-week coverage on Fox News Channel. America is watching.
It's time to take the quiz. 5 questions, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
History, pop culture, science, sports, civics. How much do you know? Let's find out.
Who was the first person to walk on the moon?
Jackson or something?
Neil Armstrong.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox and then listen to the quiz podcast to find out how you did.
Play, share, and of course, listen to the quiz right now at thequiz.fox.
What are voters telling Don Lemon, black voters, about which way they'll vote? You might be surprised to learn the answer is often Donald Trump. It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, and the Fox News Facebook page. Always on demand. Hit subscribe, Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. Interestingly, You might be listening on terrestrial radio. You might be watching on YouTube. You might be getting commercials different than the ones that I hear that play various markets. I was just listening. There's an ad for Fox News saying, more Democrats and independents watch Fox News than any other news channel. And it occurs to me that and that's true, by the way. We've all seen that. You seem confused by that. But, look, like.
I'm not.
A million or two, like, what is it? Like, Fox and Friends, I don't know what we're at right now. Probably, let's just put it at 1.5 million, so is it 3 million maybe during convention? I don't know. Whatever it is, the percentage of people in that number who consider themselves independents or even Democrats is higher than the total audience for CNN.
They're in our live chat right now.
That's why I bring it up. And so you're in the live chat. Awesome. Great. But you brought up during the commercial break 2 days, they're all saying that we're lying, but not calling out Donald Trump's lie. But all I'm going to ask you is this, is the same question that I asked during the first segment. Which lie? Please point it out. And I'm just asking you this, and let's have a good faith conversation. Let's set aside the election results of 2020. And I know you're going to say that's a gigantic one to set aside. But the reason I want to set it aside is it's a complicated and it's easy to go, no courts, no evidence. There's a lot of different ways in which that election brings itself under the microscope of scrutiny. At the very least, media treatment of that election, right? We know that. So set that aside for a moment. What is the lie? So they're all in there. You got one?
Well, no, I got something. They basically say there's too many to name.
You can't do that.
Exactly.
You can't just keep saying lies, 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 or too many to name.
Yeah.
You have to tell me. And it should be easy. I saw this comment the other day. If Donald Trump is truly Hitler, right? If he is really this bad of a dude that you're playing him out to be, you shouldn't have to lie about him. You shouldn't have to do what Walz is doing. And Harris and Biden, right? The truth should be scary enough. You shouldn't have to say he's going to enact a national abortion ban when he's not. You shouldn't have to say that he called Nazis and white supremacists very fine people when he didn't. You shouldn't have to say he promised a bloodbath when he was talking about it'd be an economic. You shouldn't have to do this if he is. That's such a bold statement and such a big belief that it ought to have some pretty undeniable truth to rest upon, right? And you should be able to make that argument. But I haven't heard that argument made in a real... I guess the most compelling argument one would make outside of using those lies is they'd say January 6th. What?
There's one.
One what?
The birther lie. That was pretty egregious.
But that doesn't... Okay, but it doesn't make him Hitler.
No.
I'm saying if you're saying he is a dictator in waiting, make the case without using a lie, because it should be pretty easy to make.
Don't lie about that.
But to the point of the comments, I'm not getting the argument made. Just let's have a truthful argument.
I'm looking
outside of the 2020 election, which deserves a series of podcasts. All right, you do this. You comb through those comments, and you see if you can find one. And let's see if there's anybody out there who really wants to have an honest conversation. Take me up on my invitation. Go ahead.
Someone's saying lots of his lies are just opinions. Also, that's what someone's saying.
Like what? I get that. I get what you're saying, but
but they're saying he's not lying. They're agreeing with us what we said earlier.
He's doing a subjective thing.
Yeah, exactly. But that's his way to skirt around it.
Well, that's okay. So let's scurry around it. So he says, I think he said it this morning, or no, he said it yesterday. I heard Jessica Tarlov bring this up. He said, who's the lefty on the 5, that he said we're not going to have a country anymore if Kamala Harris gets elected, right? Okay. An opinion, hyperbolic, right?
New York.
But they all obviously also issue opinions like he's a threat to democracy. That's an opinion, He's a dictator in waiting. That's an opinion. Now, you both have to make your case underneath it. But those are different than he'll enact a national abortion ban.
I have one.
Okay.
All right, so Soap Var says inauguration crowd size. Claimed his inauguration had the largest audience in history.
Okay. What's the name? Soap Var?
Soap Var. You
know what, Soap Var? Nice job. I think Donald Trump, I think it's I'm going to be honest, and you can jump in and call me a liar, or you should call in. I don't even know our phone number, but we have one.
Oh, wait.
But do you – it's literally ringing right now? That's so weird.
That was weird. They hung up, but yeah.
I would call it an exaggeration, but it does veer.
Pictures of it.
But saying it's the biggest one, if he just said he had a larger crowd size than it was, that's exaggerating. But saying it's one of the biggest of all time, that's a lie.
I still think it's a little bit in that harmless real estate developer, gold-plated, best you've ever seen type of thing. But I'm not going to take that away from Sopvar. But here's a question for you now. Do you think that is on the same level of saying he'll enact a national abortion ban when he said multiple times he's not going to enact a national abortion? Is that I'm asking Sopvar. Are those the same value? You know?
Yeah. And the biggest one people are afraid of is the dictator one. That's the one I hear a lot.
Wasn't that with Hannity and he was joking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's going to sign, like every president does, he's going to sign a bunch of executive orders on day one. And he was joking, dictator for a day, and then we'll work with Congress. Come on.
Hey, speaking of Jessica Tarlov, she talked about Kamala Harris and what this election is going to come down to and the vibes around the DNC versus the RNC. Here's Jessica Tarlov.
This week is all about celebrating the fact that we have a ticket that people are enthused about. And you've seen the polls that it obviously has tightened a lot with VP Harris even being favored in a lot of the swing states that are coming in and some of the national polling. We are happy with where we are. We feel like we know her. And I think Oprah Winfrey did a very good job of setting the stage and making this about a values election, that Kamala Harris has the values that are important and that the majority of Americans agree with and aspire to, and that if we go back to the way that Donald Trump was president, that kind of administration, it'll be a big setback for the country. Yeah.
I don't know what values we're talking about. I really don't. I don't know. Is that like tolerance and inclusion, like these... Is that a value, by the way? Are tolerance and inclusion values?
Yes.
Ooh. I knew he was a freaking lefty.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Bill Maher's done a good job of this. Like, I feel like I ran into this at ESPN. I honestly did. Like, I remember in executive meetings that coming up a lot. We are an inclusive and tolerant environment. Those feel like, to me, if they are values, they're self-defeating values. Because ultimately, you end up tolerating what is intolerable. You tolerate intolerance. This is like the whole debate Bill Maher had over Islamophobia, right? Mm. Like, are you supposed to tolerate an ideology that is completely anachronistic to the other things you're tolerating? You know what I mean? This is the constant Maher, like, how do you reconcile LGBT with, Sharia law, and you're tolerating both? Like, how do you do that? I almost feel like tolerance is, I don't know, it's not a destination, it's a journey. And you got to be able to understand when the journey is on the right and wrong track. Bone Spurs on YouTube says Trump lied about crowd size. We just talked about that one. This is Soapvar again. I'm enjoying your contributions today, Soapvar. Do you notice a theme of the right using sarcasm, bullying, and hate? And the other side has always fought for optimism for the future. You guys literally always come across as not genuine and angry. Well, you know what? I do think the right indulges in too much sarcasm, bullying, and I wouldn't say hate. I think that
too trolly.
Hate's a euphemism. Okay, you are saying hate because you want to get into accusations of racism or bigotry. That's what you mean by hate. I do think the right traffics in anger too much, though. And I think it's unappealing. I do not think you are as glossy and optimistic as you think. I don't think. I think that, to Jessica's point, though, that's the wrapping paper. That's how it's sold. And Brightrick and hangs around a lot. I see. And Will Cain looks dressed and coiffed today. Thank you. Fresh from hosting Fox and Friends.
Coiffed.
Speaking of my past ESPN, how about CNN? Don Lemon. He's an indie now. He's a digital guy. He's not with CNN anymore. And he's doing like man on the street stuff, which I'm not even sure he's in Chicago. I think that somebody mentions in this clip that he's in Cleveland, which is super weird. Why would he be in Cleveland right now? But he took to the streets and interviewed a lot of Black Americans and asked them which way they're going to vote. Listen.
How are you feeling about the election?
I'm going for Trump. I feel like every time they don't want
somebody who is good for us to win, they throw somebody black in our face thinking that's going to like make us vote for the black person.
I voted for Obama because he was black. I don't want to vote for her because she's the first black woman to run for president or to win.
I don't vote.
Well, I want Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I want Donald Trump.
Why do you apologize?
Well, I know nobody likes him, but we had good times with Donald Trump.
I'm running for Trump, so.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why?
Yeah. I don't know. I just always been a fan of his, so that's what I'm running for.
I used to be against Trump. I used to live in Virginia. I saw the bad side of it, but really moving to Cleveland, I saw the other side of it.
I'm supporting Trump.
You are.
Mm-hmm.
Because?
Because it has to change.
There you heard. I think everybody in that clip was black except for one. There was one white lady, the one that said, "I'm sorry, I know nobody likes it." As if you couldn't tell over the radio or podcast that lady was white. But, everybody's asking, to be real, Kilmeade asked it this morning. Tinfoil Pat put it in his note. What's going on? Why is Don Lemon uploading this clip? Like, even if he's getting this answer, why is he doing that? And I have the answer for you, okay? We often make mistakes, especially in media, of believing that the people on TV believe everything that they say. Now, there's a lot of cynical people out there like, nobody believes, and think I don't believe what I say. I believe 100% of what I say and always have. But I have, and it's taken me some time to really come to know this, come to understand that not everybody does, okay? I shared a story with these guys earlier. I know for a fact somebody told me a story about a very well-known personality in news who basically was like, whatever you need, boss, and swung hard from one way to the other in a shocking manner. But here's what I know about Don Lemon. The Don Lemon's number one goal and priority is Don Lemon. It's not the left, okay? He's not an ideologue. He's not. I'm not saying he's like whatever you need boss either. I'm saying he's very good at ascertaining what it is he needs to advance himself in any given situation. And at one point in his career at CNN, that required him saying, pull your pants up, to Black America. Remember that monologue he did? Pull your pants up. Quit sagging pants. And then the next, after a year or two pass, saying anyone who would even think such a thing would be a racist, and basically leading the charge that everything in America is racist. If the climate of CNN is stars will be made by hating Trump the most, then he will hate Trump the most. And now that he's not CNN and he's in the independent digital space, and that space rewards unpredictability or some semblance of independence, and it has rewarded guys like Chris Cuomo, who've all of a sudden appeared more independent, or whatever. Everybody goes down the Joe Rogan path a little more, then that's what Don Lemon will do as well. He will do what it takes to put the wind at his sails. And you know what? To some extent, everyone does. And I'm not just talking about people with a microphone. Everybody does. But you have to always be able to ask yourself, do I have a backbone? Am I grounded? Do I have something that I truly believe? I'm just here to tell you, the answer is no with Don Lemon. All right, we got Vivek.
Right now, he's being swarmed by a group of fans in Chicago at the DNC, and they're working on getting him out of it and getting him on the Zoom.
Well, that does not sound promising.
Close.
No. That does
he's
not
trying to get
sound
out of
promising.
They're saying he stopped and he's talking to people.
So I'm going to tell you what. I will not tease Vivek
little.
Ramaswamy coming up on the Will Cain Show, but I will tease maybe in just a moment Vivek Ramaswamy on the Will Cain Show.
From the Fox News Podcast Network.
I'm Emily Campagno, and this is the Fox True Crime Podcast.
And I had nothing to do with her disappearance, but people still accuse me of it.
I sit down with the people who lived the nightmares.
I was in shock. I was just devastated.
The investigators who tirelessly worked on the case.
I feel for their families, and I really hope that they can catch this guy.
Bringing you closer to the story than you ever thought possible.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. With the nomination official and a running mate picked.
We have the momentum, and I know exactly what we are up against.
Vice President Kamala Harris moves on to Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, and Fox News Audio has complete Democracy 24 coverage, hosted by Jared Halpern and Jessica Rosenthal, along with a team of Fox News reporters and analysts. The Democratic National Convention, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Listen at foxnewsradio.com or on the Fox News app. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey there, it's me, Kennedy. Make sure to check out my podcast, Kennedy Saves the World. It is 5 days a week. Every week, we check in with Jimmy Fallon, bring in authors for the book club, and even treat some of your favorite Fox personalities to a very special happy hour. Download and listen at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Kennedy Saves the World. America's listening to Fox News.
Now, is that a hell of a tease or is that a hell of a tease? It's almost like a mystery. You got to come. Is Vivek going to be there or not? Coming up on the Will Cain Show. Streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, and the Fox News Facebook page. What are you shaking your head at, two-a-days?
Just his, enthusiasm for hoping to be right.
James?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I look over there at James and he's going, he's coming. He's going.
Just vamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I trust you so little on this. I don't even think you trust yourself. Like, you think Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be here in a minute or two? Honestly, if I said your job is on the line, if I said, James, your job is on the line, set the over-under at how many minutes until Vivek gets here?
7.5.
Yeah. I was going to say he ain't coming for 5. You may make it with 7.5, but we ain't going to make it for 7.5.
I just hit him with a needs to start at 12:55 or it won't work, and he says that would work. So we're
Why did you give him till 12:55?
Well, I said 12:50 ideal. Let's get this done now. And
that's not ideal.
So he's typing, Mike is being placed now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
boy.
You may save your job yet.
I got the Zoom session
I said
up.
7.5.
All right, we'll see.
Told him 12:40, but
I have really tried to include you in the conversation today to push back on me on where these lies exist. I don't think it's showed up in the comment section. You're always welcome. I've got two-a-days combing through it to see if you give me the example of the biggest lie that's actually a lie. Not this, for example. Here's Daniel Dale. So Daniel Dale's the fact checker at CNN, right? And I'm going to give you an example of the type of fact checks that he's got. Trump claimed there was no inflation a few years ago. It was very low in his last year amid pandemic economic crash, but it was 1.4% year over year in his last month in office, which is not zero. And it was a cumulative 8% for his presidency. I don't know what that last statement, but 1.4%, not zero. He goes on, and they all are about exaggeration. I've got like 10 Daniel Dale fact checks right here. They're not, it's about crime stats. Were they really this, what Trump says versus that? But none of them just completely fabricated statements. All right, it looks like James may have saved his job. Is he good to go? He's looking at his phone. Vivek.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Good to talk to you, man.
Vivek, can I just tell you, you saved James, young James, establishment James, who works on my show. You saved his job. I said if Vivek,
really?
Yeah, I said if Vivek isn't here in 2 minutes, first of all, I said, would you bet your job on it that he's going to be here in X amount of time? And you way got here. I mean, you're late, but you way got here before the time that we said he had to lose his job. So you saved.
For good measure.
It must feel good. You saved a young man's job today, Vivek.
I appreciate that. That's good. Well, it's one more to make up for the 819,000 jobs that were overstated, in the latest jobs report. So anyway,
Vivek's talking about the jobs report. This has been revised over the past year. We did not add. We added 819,000 jobs less than what was reported. Vivek, this is the conversation I've been having today. So, I think you've officially been a surrogate. I think that's true for Donald Trump, but you definitely believe in Donald Trump. You've spoken up in defense of Donald Trump.
I'm here at the DNC right now talking to you, and we just, held an event.
Right.
For the Trump team here, explaining why he's the better choice. Yeah.
So Vivek, this is what I've been having a conversation about today. I think Donald Trump, and I would tell him this, I mean, he's a New York real estate developer that exaggerates. There's, like he said this morning to me on Fox and Friends, every liberal scholar and legal scholar wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. That's not true. Not every liberal legal scholar wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. But in my mind, and I'm trying to be completely honest here, Vivek, that is an exaggeration that's different than a completely wholly manufactured lie, like Walz on stage last night saying Donald Trump will enact a national abortion ban, when there's plenty of evidence and statements to say that is 180 degrees wrong in the exact opposite direction. So what I'm getting at is like, even the 819,000 jobs, that's just manufactured stuff.
Right.
It's not exaggerations. Right. It's complete and utter falsehoods.
Yeah, so my view is we're not going hard enough in the paint on the policy record and the actual hard facts, which we can change in the next couple of months, because she's only been the nominee. Well, she's not even the nominee yet, but she's only even been the putative nominee for a month or so right now. So yes, does it take a little bit of time to find our footing? Absolutely. But I think the next step of this election, and it's service to the American voters, is the media is not really doing it with Kamala Harris. They bought themselves some latitude by claiming to be even-handed by criticizing Biden, but now actually gets to have a lot more latitude with propping up Kamala. We're not going to complain about that. I think time is too scarce to be able to do that, but to be able to actually point out with hard facts, right? You're talking about 819,000 added jobs that Gina Raimondo, the Commerce Secretary, was not even aware of.
Right.
This is negligence at best in the context of a presidential election. Go fact by fact all the way down. If 25% tax they want on unrealized capital gains, spell out to the people exactly how that would trigger a sell-off that would be the formula for a second market crash and Great Depression. So we got to go just line by line on the items that Kamala Harris has advanced in the past, because she's not adopting policy positions this time around. So you got to look to the past for what her actually policy positions are. Go straight down the list and pick them apart one by one. That's the formula for success.
That was a pretty stunning statement by Gina Raimondo. And it's kind of thematic with the conversation we're having today, because she rejected it. Can't remember if it was ABC. I think it was ABC. She rejected it and said, well, I don't believe anything that Donald Trump says. Yeah, but it came from, I think it was the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? Like this, and you're not aware that it's overstated by almost 1 million jobs, 800. See, was that an exaggeration? Was I lying? 819,000 jobs. It's a stunning thing, Vivek. And by the way, on the economic policy, you talk about market crash, price controls, cap gains at 45%. I mean, this is crazy radical stuff that truly threatens an economy. I hope you guys can highlight that. I hope I do as well, because that's an important thing people should know about.
Yeah, so on the jobs piece, because people might hear a number like 819,000 jobs, or what does that number mean? This is the largest downward revisions or restatement of the numbers in over 15 years in the country. So this is more than a once-in-a-decade kind of event, so people understand the context that this is not normal for the government. The government messes up a lot of things, but on this scale, this is not normal. So for people to understand that. When it comes to, taking the tax on unrealized capital gains, to just spell that out for people what that actually means, that means you may have to pay taxes with cash you don't actually have.
Right.
So if you're a farmer or a business owner, maybe a private business that you've put your money into, the government says it's worth more than it was when you started it. You have to pay a tax, even if you're not selling a piece of that business. That's a formula for economic calamity. So I think you go straight down the list, Will.
Right.
On economics, on the border crisis, which I think is the winning issue for this election for Republicans and for Donald Trump. If it's about the issues, we win. If it's about style and vibe and personality, that's outside of our control, because it's what the media actually puts up on offer. If it's about policy, we win. If it's not, we lose. I think it's that simple.
I mean, Donald Trump. I know Donald Trump. Everyone says what you just said. But sometimes it's hard for him not to go down the path of the personality. And I get it, because they attack him as a personality, so he wants to swing back. You've been there. I watched you on the debate stage. I mean, look, I think, Vivek, you are a guy whose mind is almost, not exclusively, but primarily focused on policy.
Yeah.
But even when you were on the debate stage, you got into it with Nikki. So it's hard not to take the bait, but it does seem like catnip. It's the bait you don't want to take for Donald Trump.
Yeah, so look, I'll even share with some of my own learnings from the last year of having run for U.S. president. I think I was at my best when I focused on the reasons that drew me into the race in the first place, addressing our vacuum of national identity, the deep division in this country, filling the void in the mental health epidemic, including for young people across the country, and talking to people on the other side. I mean, those were my favorite moments from the campaign, was directly addressing people who disagreed with me, even protesters at events. I think that was the most positive part. I think as it relates to politics, and I'm a businessman, and that's one of the reasons I respect Donald Trump, is as a businessman coming into this, one of the things I learned is what's new in this realm is people come at you far more personally, in a far more personal way than you might experience in the realm of business. And my philosophy there was, Will, you know what? If somebody hits you, you hit them back 10 times harder. And that's what I did. So in some ways, I'm a business guy judged by results. I did a lot better than was expected of a guy who was 37 and most people hadn't heard of. I beat multiple governors, senators, current former governors, a former vice president. Nobody saw that at the time I entered the race. On the other hand, I didn't achieve the goal that I set out to, which is to be the next president. So for me, the lessons from that are that, yes, if somebody hits you, you got to hit back 10 times harder. That's okay. I think that my advice to Donald Trump would be, you got to fight. People want a fighter. But that's not enough. You got to show people the full dimension of who you are and why you're in this. Is that fair? No, the media is not holding the left to that same standard. What do you see is at this convention even, they've mentioned Donald Trump's name more than they've even talked about the economy that's affecting everyday Americans. They're calling 70 plus million Americans on the other side weird. They're really trying to set up, I think, a trap for us. So is it fair game for Donald Trump to hit back when he's hit? Absolutely. So I don't fault him for that. A lot of people on the right might, I don't. But I think that we can't miss the opportunity that we also have to win this on policy, because going after Kamala for single-payer healthcare, wanting to take away private health insurance, wanting to tax unrealized gains, these are opportunities that I want to make sure that we don't miss by falling into, I think, a trap that they've otherwise laid for us.
Hey, speaking of talking to the other side, I've been meaning to, but I haven't watched your conversation with Mark Cuban.
Yeah, it was a good discussion, actually. Yeah? We had a great... And he's a smart guy. You know, we don't agree on everything.
But
we don't
I think
agree on a lot of things.
You know, like in Shawshank Redemption, when what's his name's character is sitting in front of the warden, he goes, "Don't be obtuse." I feel like Mark is being willfully obtuse. Like, I think he's a smart guy who refuses to get it.
So my conversation with him, I think, was maybe, better than you might see from social media posts coming out from him. But one of the things I also liked about him, we also ended up talking about other things too. He's been an executive producer of multiple films. Right? One of the things I did since I left the presidential campaign, which is new for me, is I became an executive producer on this movie City of Dreams, which is coming out pretty soon, on the child trafficking crisis in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the makers of The Sound of Freedom were involved in it as well. And it's one of the things that you look at the difference in the border policies between Trump and Kamala Harris. Couldn't be more stark. But those aren't just statistics. And I think one of the things that I'd like to see us, not just as a political party, but in our movement, do a better job of, is to reach people in ways that go outside of the bounds of traditional politics, right? Through the economy, through the business world, but also even through our culture. And so that's one of the things I've tried to do through this, movie that I've created, or helped create, right? I was an executive producer on it. But one of the things I liked about my discussion with Mark Cuban is we were able to talk about that. And once he and I are talking about business or making movies, then we come back and bring it to the realm of politics. Somehow you're able to have a little bit more rational of a discussion than you are in the practice of dunking each other on social media. And I think that works in our favor. So anyway, check out that conversation with him. And I will.
But you want to work in the administration? What job do you want?
Yeah, so there's a few different paths. I mean, I'm born and raised in Ohio. I live in Ohio now. So the thing everybody's talking about right now is whether I would take JD's seat in the U.S. Senate. The thing most of the people on the ground in Ohio want me to do is actually I'm being recruited by, I can't tell you how many people, to run for governor in Ohio, and that I think would be wide open if that was a path I wanted to take. But President Trump and I have also had some great conversations about having a real, I would say, let's just call it high impact role in the administration. All those paths are open, but it's only relevant if we win this election. So
but
I'm not
politics
wasting a lot
remains
of mental bandwidth.
As long as Trump Vance wins, politics remains.
I feel called to
future.
serve the country. I feel called to serve. The country has done more for me than my parents could have ever imagined when they came here as legal immigrants 40 years ago. I've founded multi-billion-dollar companies, been educated at some of the best institutions, at least used to be, that this country had to offer, raising my two sons in Ohio. My wife's lived the American dream. We have no more to ask of this country, but I feel called to serve in some way. And one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was young, I'll share it with you, it applies whether it's in politics or not, is it takes about as much effort to do something small and to do it well as it does to do something really big and to do it well. So we don't get a lot of time in this earth, right? We're given in the short time we're given, how do we maximize it? And so whatever I do, it's going to be serving the country, but looking at the impact being as big as it possibly can be. So we'll find out what that is.
Looks like you've already ascended into heaven, Vivek. Like I'm sitting here looking at you on our screen. You got a white backdrop behind you. literally. What are you? Are you in heaven? Where are you coming to us from?
It's interesting you would bring up that analogy. I don't want to say it's judge as you might. It's Chicago. I'm in Chicago. Outside the DNC, there's protesters outside, and it's an interesting. So I did a press conference with the Trump team this morning. I'm heading down and probably going to meet some protesters before heading straight into the convention later today. So not exactly what your conception of heaven might
just
be,
a white backdrop. It's very angelic with a
exactly.
nice glow behind you. And I heard you just came. We pulled you away from fans, adoring fans, to get you in here just in time to save James' job.
Thank you.
Vivek.
Well, James, you do a good job. It's the least we could ask of you. I'm sure he will.
Make it 818,999 jobs. Vivek, I've been wanting to have a longer conversation with you for some time. I'm not going to count today, okay? Because you were awesome and you hopped in at the last minute, and we appreciate you.
Check out a couple of those other things we discussed, and the movie that's coming out, I think you'll particularly like it.
I'll check it out.
You're somebody who understands reaching people not just through politics but through culture, and I was proud to play a small role in.
Tell me the name one more time.
City of Dreams.
All right, I'll be checking it out. Everyone listening as well.
Movie.
Vivek Ramaswamy, always appreciate you, Vivek. Thank you.
Check it out. Thank you.
All right, there he goes. You did it. You did it, James. I thought there was zero chance he would make your timeline. Zero.
Built myself a buffer. Just fine.
Yep.
Just fine.
Yeah, still has a job until tomorrow. That's going to do it for us today here on the Will Cain Show. We will see you again Monday. Tomorrow we got a sports exclusive Cain on Sports edition of the Will Cain Show. We'll break down the top, how about this, 134 teams in college football. That's tomorrow on the Will Cain Show.